Hey guys, I'm Kevin from Get a Life Podcast Kunai, and today I'm joined with Bish.
Hey guys, what's up?
Yeah, and today we're going to be trying our 2-man episodes, and we're covering Overlord. But before we get to any further discussion, Bish?
For you new folks, Get a Life Podcast Kunai is a monthly anime discussion podcast under the Get a Life group. Due to the nature of the discussion, we can't avoid spoilers of the show to be discussed for those shows that are based off an existing piece of work, whether it's manga, light novel, or some other media form. We're not going to be covering the source material for those. We can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. If you'd like to recommend a show for us to watch and make an episode of Kunai for, send us your suggestion on our Twitter page at Get a Life Podcast, or by leaving us a review on one of those podcast platforms, or if you go to our website www.getlifepodcast.com/anime, it will take you to our suggestion form. And if you want to support what we do on Kunai, make sure you check out our sponsors, Japan Crate. So go to www.getlifepodcast.com/Japan Crate. Use the code GALP for $3 off. Finally, if you want to watch this specific anime and keep up to date with what we watch for Kunai, you can support us by signing up for a 14-day free trial of Crunchyroll Premium. For everything anime, keep it Crunchyroll, crunchyroll.com/Kunai.
Alright, so for those of you who don't know much about Overlord, it is a dark fantasy and isekai series, and is based off the light novel written by Kugane Maruyama. The anime series is from Madhouse and was directed by Naoyuki Ito and Minoru Ashihina for the OVA, and it was released in 2015. So, first off, Bish, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually your first time watching the show, right? So just want to know what your first impressions were of Overlord and how you got to hear of it and how you got into the series.
Sure. So actually, Will, who was on the previous episode of Kunai, we actually had a debut with him. He actually suggested it to me ages ago, and he wanted us to do it for Kunai. So around the time that we did Excel World, he was like, yeah, watch Overlord. And I was like, I'll watch it. And I believe this was at the time where Crunchyroll and Funimation were still had this partnership going on. So I watched a couple of episodes on Crunchyroll, and then when I went back to it, they removed it from Crunchyroll. I was like, what? So I didn't get a chance to sort of finish the show. I got like 2 episodes in, and I kind of dropped the show only because I didn't have access to Funimation. Now, when we were suggesting it for Kunai, when it was suggested for Kunai, I decided, okay, I'm going to buy a Funimation account. So I bought Funimation, and then it turns out that it went back to Crunchyroll. So due to licensing issues, I wasn't really able to continue it. And it's like, in terms of the first impressions of the show, really, I enjoyed it initially. It got me hooked from the beginning. I kind of like these sort of stories, the mysterious stories. I know it's like very cliche that, oh, they're stuck in the game, but at the same time, I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know if they're actually stuck in the game or if the game is just a means to like a different sort of situation. But we see a lot of anime like that, like obviously Excel World, Sword Art, even Mom Online, the Isekai with the mums. That's a similar sort of story. So I'm like, I don't know if it's overplayed.
Yeah. It's a very saturated genre, right?
It is, very, to be honest with you. But at the same time, it's very interesting because it's slightly different from what I've seen. Like if we're comparing it to something like Sword Art, it's a lot darker. It's a lot more comedic at times. But I mean, the theme is quite serious for the most part. And that's what kind of kept me hooked with that show in terms of my first impressions.
And I really like the way you use the word mystery there, because that's one of the things that I think that this show does really well, right? And I remember when I first pitched this show to you for Kunai. Actually, no, it was you who pitched it to me, and I was talking about it, right? And I was like, that's a perfect fit for Kunai because it's something that we're so used to that we can relate to, right? It's kind of like this show about games, and I was like kind of like going in circles with my explanation, right? And you're just like, bro, it's an isekai, and it lit up, right, for me, because I actually didn't remember that it was an isekai show, because it doesn't feel like that at all, right? I don't get the same vibes that I do from Overlord.
It feels more so like a dramatic thriller type show with magic included on the side.
Just because like in other shows, right, it's like, yeah, they're transported into the game world, whatever, but it still very much feels like, I don't know how to say it, but like a game, right? They know everything about the world already, right?
Well, so, to some extent, like, it flips it on its head because Momonga still uses the information that he knows from Yggdrasil or whatever it's called, the game that he was playing before. It's kind of like, as soon as he's using that and as soon as he's using the spells and shit, and when he realizes his money can't be used in this world, it's like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there. You're flipping it on its head. And I kind of enjoyed that because you don't expect it. You would imagine comparing it to all these other Isekai animes that, okay, he's in the game world, he knows what he's going to do, he's going to be OP as fuck. But I mean, the fact that they flipped it on its head, it's quite interesting, and that's another reason why I'm intrigued, because it's so different from the other Isekai.
Yeah, because like even though he's like a level 100, right, he's a seasoned veteran in the game and stuff, he's still discovering this new world with you, because the world that he got transported into, it's very clear that it's not the same world that he was used to playing in, right? So I feel that the fact that you're discovering the universe of Overlord at the same time as he is makes him a lot more relatable, and I don't know, it's just a great way to put you in his shoes and to introduce you to the universe, right? But that aside, I think that one of the first things that came to me when I first started watching the show, and when I rewatched it, was really nostalgia and relatable, right? Because like from the first episode, he's like talking to an old guild mate, right, who's moved on in life and stuff, and he's like reminiscing about the old days where they're all like, you know, in this guild together, they're having a great time, and you know, just the heydays of the Yggdrasil game. And that reminds me a lot of my like Xbox high school days. I don't know if you had a same sort of phase, but for me, in middle and high school, like my friends and I would play fucking Xbox like religion. We had like, you know, Black Ops 2. As soon as you got home from school, you loaded that shit up, you went into your Xbox Live parties, we'd play like online, we'd just screw around in private matches, we'd play like COD Zombies on Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 1, and go back to World at War sometimes, and we do like everything together, right? Like as soon as school's done, it was like party time, you know? So I don't know, that hit me a lot, right? Because I felt so nostalgic for those days, and I was like, shit, I really understand this protagonist, you know? So instantly from the get-go, I feel that it does a great job of reeling you in, because there's like their demographic, right? There's so many people in the anime community who are also gamers, right? So I feel that it's really relatable for a lot of people, and that's what drags you into the show initially, and I think that's very well done.
And it's a good thing that you mentioned relatability, because obviously when I was watching it at the same time, and I'm seeing him with his one guild member that decides to log off, he was expecting more people to be there for the end of the game because they knew the servers were shutting down. So it kind of reminds me of other games that I used to play that were shut down, like stuff like RuneScape. Obviously they reopened the RuneScape servers, but stuff like Club Penguin, I remember when they shut down Club Penguin and all the people were there for like the final, you know, send off. It kind of felt like that, but in a sadder way, because no one was there, just that one.
Yeah, it was like a giant table, and there were just like two of them, you know? Yeah.
It also makes me wonder, like, was it just the fact that everyone grew up? Because I know that everyone has like jobs that they were going to. Even Momonga has a job, right? He mentions it. So
he's like, oh, I have to work at like 4 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's like, were they young when they were initially playing the game, and then they just grew up and they got jobs and they got families and they just started to drift away?
I really think it's that, because like he mentions that one of the 2 rules that you had to abide to join the guild, Ainz Ooal Gown, was that, you know, you had to be a functioning member of society. And he mentions how, like, you know, over time, just their lives got in the way, right? Life moves on. They had families. They had their careers to look after, and people they kind of grow apart, right? It's kind of exactly what happens, you know, in real life. You know, the friends I used to play, like, you know, COD with years ago, right? You know, like university came and went, and there's like, just life happens. You know what I mean?
I kind of felt bad for Momonga. Like, it's like, imagine just being there left with NPCs. But I think what was interesting about it was it kind of started off as this whole game thing, and then it just became real. Like that. I wasn't really expecting the fact that as soon as the servers shut down, that he would basically be inside the game like forever. I wanted to know, is there a way he could get out? But he doesn't really ask that question, and I think that's an intriguing thing. The fact that Momonga doesn't ask the question,
can I get out? Yeah.
The first thing he goes to is, is there other players in this world? He's just intrigued by the world mainly, and he's accepted his fate, which is unlike Sword Art or Excel World or all of these other isekais where the journey is really getting out as opposed to just making the most of what you have.
That's why it just stands out so much as an isekai. I feel like it's an isekai in the sense that, yes, he's transported in the game world. After that, he doesn't really make an attempt to get out. He doesn't really mention the fact that it's a game too much, right? And like, even if you think about it, I remember watching the first episode of Sword Art with some friends a while back, and what really hit me was that in Sword Art, if I remember correctly, tell me if I'm wrong here, in the first episode of a lot of isekai shows, the first episode is always just like filled with exposition, where it's like, the game creator wants you guys to complete this quest or whatever, and there's like, this is what your goal is, blah blah blah, and there's a bunch of exposition that tells you like a whole bunch of stuff about the world. Whereas in Overlord, there's absolutely nothing, right? You're on the same page as the protagonist, right? You don't know what's changed.
True. I get what you mean, like you're on the same page with Momonga, but at the same time, you're on the same page with Momonga, but Momonga already has the information from the game that he's played. So really, you learn with him, but at the same time, it's like you also learn about the previous game. Like, do you see what I mean? Like you learn about everything that's going on with Momonga. Like, I like that. It's very refreshing, because as you said, you don't get that exposition. You kind of learn it as you go along. Like you learn about Momonga's friends, you learn about even the characters themselves, you learn about them because of the people that created them. So it's like they have certain traits and stuff, and it's interesting.
I think they really embody, the principle of, show and don't tell here. Because if they had just told us everything about, what this new world was like and all that, and the NPCs that lived in it, then you'd have no reason to, follow Momonga and, his companions, right? So I think they do a really great job within the first few episodes of pulling you in, not only with the relatability of the main character, which is really solid, but also with the universe. I found myself asking, like, what is this world like? How is it different from the game world that they used to live in? What other players are there? Is it gonna fight them and all that? So a pretty solid first few episodes that really drag you in. But other than that, I really want to talk about the rest of the show as well, because yes, the first few episodes are a good introduction, but I don't think that's where the show really shines, right? Thankfully, I find that it gets better and better as the episodes go on. So I just want to know what your favorite episodes and moments are, whether they're good or bad, really.
There's a lot of moments within the show. I think every episode is a highlight for me. There wasn't any episode within this anime that I felt, this is filler, or this is pretty shitty exposition or anything like that. But really? I would say, no, throughout the whole thing, I really enjoyed it. One of the first episodes I enjoyed was the episode where they go to the town. I forgot the name of the town, but...
Carney.
Yeah, when they go to Carney town, basically he remembers he just sees it in this sort of mirror, whatever, and he remembers what Touch Me San.
Lord Touch Me.
Lord Touch Me.
I fucking die when I saw that name. I was like, that's such a gamer name, dude.
That's all of them have these awkward, weird gamer names. Like, but that's because they were playing a game. So I got it. I got that joke straight away. I was like, Touch Me Sama, Lord Touch Me. So when it's sort of this thing where you see Lord Touch Me's sort of helping him out. He's just a weak young player, and he's asking him to join his guild, right? So that was pretty cool. And the fact that he only saved that village to pay a debt to one of his friends that are not there anymore. So it's weird, because Momonga treats them as if they're dead, right? And they might as well be.
He was just like, nah, fuck them. I'm just not, there's no reason or advantage for me to go save this village. I'm just gonna watch from a distance and let them die. And he has the flashback, and he's like, you know what? I'll go for it.
And it's stuff like that. I was just like, whoa, Momonga. Like, you see who Momonga is, not as this overlord. Like, if you look at his appearance, he's kind of scary, right? That's what I love about the episode, the fact that you see more of Momonga. You see the human side of Momonga, literally.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that this is the first time you actually see Momonga in actual battle action, especially the fight with the church and the angels, and it's all just hitting him, and he's just like, what the fuck are you guys gonna do, bro? And he just,
it's like fucking one punch shot. Man, he's just like shrugging this shit off,
dude.
Like,
when I saw
fucking
that,
plebeians.
I felt like the power of Momonga. Like, I felt like, shit, this guy is the guy. He is the overlord. You know what I mean? And that was just, I bet you that wasn't even using much of his power. He was just flexing for no reason. I did enjoy that, and that episode was a highlight for me. I think another episode that I really enjoyed as well was when he goes to the village and he's taking quests. that was interesting, only because there was so much that was going on. There was like the kid, Momonga breaks one of the potions and he gives her the pure potion.
I believe her name's Rita. Yeah, he gives her the red potion, I believe.
Yeah, which is a pure potion. It's like 100% healing and whatever. So when that happened, and obviously how that led into the next part, with the village as well, the fact that it's all sort of tied in, I enjoyed that. But what I enjoyed the most about the episode is finding out that the king of the forest is a fucking hamster.
That's way in episode. Oh, okay. How do you feel about that episode? Actually, episode 7.
Do you not like it? I enjoyed it. I thought it was fucking hilarious. I was imagining this.
It was
piece,
funny, I'll admit.
But I mean, sometimes you need that. Like, bear in mind, especially after what was gonna come afterwards, where all of his teammates fucking were brutally killed by Clementine, right? So I think maybe if that was afterwards, that would have been funny, but it wouldn't have been appropriate. So they had to do it before. I get it. It was funny. It's just I enjoyed the fucking hamster. It was hilarious.
It was funny. But I gotta say, it wasn't a terrible episode, but for me, episode 7, which is, I believe, the Wise King of the Forest, there we go, Wise King of the Forest, it was, like, the least good episode, in my opinion. It was my least favorite episode, actually, for several reasons. Like, it's not bad, but I don't feel like there's a whole lot that was added to the lore or the story progression in this episode. It honestly kind of felt like filler to me, right? Because by that point in episode 7, he's already completed his quest with the group of explorers, right? And they're just on the way back to collect their prize, right? So there's nothing substantive that happens other than the hamster joining the cast. And it was funny, but I don't really care about the hamster. Like, he doesn't really do much for the rest of the story, like. Well,
once again, I think that is needed. The fact that they were on their way back, you need to know that for the next episode to make sense, because obviously.
Do you though? Like, if you didn't run to the hamster, like if they did their quest and they went right back to Clementine, kidnapping Inferior, I don't think anything in the story would have changed. Yes, you wouldn't have seen the hamster, but in the first season at least, because I haven't watched the later seasons, the hamster doesn't do anything, right? He's not a part of the battles or anything, right? He's not a major new character that gets developed. I feel that, in the other moments, notwithstanding the hamster, even in the moments with Inferior, okay, you get that, okay, he's kind of cunning because he's trying to trick Momonga and all that, but I don't feel that anything that substantive was really added to his character or to, the story. There's just a little bit of lore, I guess, but I really don't feel like it added much. It's just the ending is what really saved it for me. I just think that the other episodes, what makes them better is that they're able to beautifully wed, action, intrigue, and world building together, right? There's at least 2 of those elements at any given time in the other episodes, whereas this, I had to pause and ask myself, okay, what the fuck are they doing hunting this hamster for? It doesn't really feel like it advances his goals or anything, and he was disappointed. He was like, I was expecting to test my power against this beast or whatever, and it's just a fucking hamster, so even he was disappointed, right?
I get he was disappointed. I get you were disappointed as well, but at the same time, like I said, the only reason I enjoyed it was because I think it needed to be there, because if you didn't have that comic relief there, the next episodes I would just feel so fucking depressed. Do you know what I mean?
That is true.
So that's one of the reasons that I like it. But even saying then, the episodes that preceded that were fucking amazing. They were just great. The fact that he just killed all of the fucking team after you had a relationship with them, and you find out certain people's secrets, like the young boy was actually a girl the whole time, and you see the friendship that they have and etc. And it's like, oh fuck, she just
all
killed
get
them.
George R. R. Martin and fucking
I know it's like there was no reason for me to like them, but the way that Momonga had a relationship with them and just cared for them.
I'm so confused though. We'll get into this later, but I was really wondering whether he did care for them, because afterwards he was just like, oh, I don't know them. They were just these people that I happened to work with once, right? When the grandmother asked, do you know these people? And he's like, nope. They are my associates.
Bear in mind, it's not about him caring or not caring. It's the fact that he's a status symbol. He has to keep up appearances. That is true. Okay. So even when the youngest one died, he was remembering her, even as he was crushing Clementine. So it still meant something to him. Even if he doesn't show it, it meant something to him. He has to keep up appearances.
That is true. No, you're absolutely right. Now that I think about it, yeah, he just acts that way to keep an appearance in front of the villagers, I guess, yeah.
And that's something that I want to say. Momonga is a very manipulative character. That's what he has to be. And you see it even further along in other episodes, especially the fight with Shalter. He deceives her. And that's the only way he was able to win, because even Cocytus was like, he has a 3 out of 7 chance to win. You know what I mean?
He's playing mind games.
And that's what it is.
I think that's a nice tease for a character discussion. But other than that, okay, episode 7, I can understand why you like it. I do agree that, yeah, without the comedic relief, in retrospect, the last half of the show would have been, there weren't many comedic moments at all, right? So it would have been like really fucking dark and shit. So I do see your point. For me, I would like to go back to episode 3 and 4 actually, because I think that, you know, for a lot of people, I know some friends like my roommate Greg, right? He has this bad habit of like, even if he doesn't like a show initially, he'll watch it all the way until the end. And the reason why I mentioned that is because I think episode 3 and 4, they're near the beginning of the show, and they really show you what makes the show great. So you can decide from there whether or not you want to continue or not, you know? So honestly, if you want to recommend Overlord to your friends, I think that you should at least tell them to watch up to episode 4, because episode 3, it's the first time that, like you mentioned, that's when they go to Carney Village, right? And it's the first time you see some action, right? You get to see the outside world, outside of the tomb of Nazarick, right? And you get to explore it with Momonga. And it's also the first time you see combat, right? And it just reminded me of how brutal this anime can be, right? I'm not saying that it's like another or anything, but the combat was pretty fucking like, it's kind of gory, you know, for an anime.
Kevin, I wouldn't really say that, to be honest with you, because I was expecting more gore, like especially, I know we're jumping very far on, the Clementine death scene. You know when Momonga's crushing her to death and shit.
Are you saying that that's not enough for you, or is that?
I wanted more.
Are you serious?
I'm
really?
serious. You know, it's weird because I watched that. I was watching it in the kitchen. I was having a sandwich. I was eating. Like, I didn't feel disgusted by it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. He just crushed her. I was like, cool. Do you know what I wanted to see? I wanted to see him crush her so badly that she, like, you see bones popping out and shit. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see her fall to the floor, dead, like, mangled up.
I think that's just, you know, your sick fantasy, dude. But I think that you're really in the minority, though. Let's be real, man. Did you watch this on Crunchyroll, right?
Yeah.
You should have seen the comments, man. Like, people were, I don't know. I find that it was an extremely satisfying death scene. It was
satisfying, but I think because the character was so evil, I wanted her to die a more painful death because she's taken so many lives. So I wanted Momonga to crush her to powder.
Didn't she like scratch her fucking nails off or something? Like, it is not a light scene. You gotta concede that.
No, it's not a light scene. I'll be honest with you, it's not a light scene, and the blood gushes everywhere. But I just wanted more. I wanted more gore. Like that scene in itself, I was like, you know, I was expecting Goblin Slayer levels of gore. That's what I was expecting for that scene.
I can't vouch for that. I haven't seen Goblin Slayer yet, but I found it to be satisfactory. You know, okay. I wasn't disappointed in the least. But for episode 4 as well, I find that one of the other great things, other than, you know, world building and intrigue that makes this world great, is again the combat. You know, like, it's just hilariously lopsided, like you said, Bish. He's just fucking overpowered, right? He's just like glancing shots left and right, and it's just fucking fun to see him like own everyone with these over-the-top moves, you know what I mean?
Even then, I think even Momonga is not using anything over the top until really the end of the anime. That's when he's actually trying. That's when you see him actually struggling. Like, this was like someone's like throwing it's like someone throwing a pillow at you. Like, it's a pillow fight. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, basically.
It's like Momonga brought a sledgehammer to a pillow fight.
Yeah, basically. I remember during episode 4, right, when they're fighting against like the angels or whatever, right? He's like, oh yeah, I've got this super fucking powerful crystal that'll summon like the power of God to smite you, right? And he's like, Momonga for a second, he's like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And then he does it, and he's like, are you fucking kidding me? I was scared for this shit, right? So it's just like funny comedic moments like that, seeing like the enemy's reactions to being completely fucking outclassed. That's what makes this show funny.
What I enjoyed even about that episode was that the fact that Momonga was smart enough to teleport himself in. Like, that I thought was very cool, because it was like, oh cool, you see shit that it's like you wouldn't expect. I thought Gazev was just gonna have like fucking die. That's what I thought. But the fact that he just teleported with him, I was like, shit, Momonga. It was very high building.
It's kind of expected though, because like he gives him the thing, right? So we're like, I wonder what that could be for, right? Clearly he's not just gonna like let this guy die.
Okay, I thought he was gonna let him die.
I don't think he's that cold-hearted. Like, he's shown to be kind of like indifferent at times, but I don't know if I'd say he's that cold-hearted.
Well, because at heart, Momonga is human, right? Like, the actual guy that controls Momonga character in the game is a human being. So he still kind of retains that sort of emotion. Do you have any other favorite episodes?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I think, honestly, beginning was pretty solid. It shows you what to expect from the show. Great introduction, as I said before. I'm glad that you enjoyed the middle arc, right? I think it's called the Dark Warrior arc, where they're going with the explorers, right, with Clementine and all that. But for me, really, like, the best part of the show is really the ending, and in this I'm going to include episode 9. Episode 9 is the very last episode of the middle arc, you know, when they're fighting against Clementine, actually, and against when Nabe is fighting against the priest dude. I find that starting from episode 9 all the way until episode 13, it's like fucking non-stop action, right? You really don't feel like there's anything unnecessary.
True.
Personally,
that is true. I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy that final arc as well. Really, what I enjoyed about it was Shaltier's entrance. You know how they were like, oh, they were tricking that guy to sort of basically find warriors. That's what he wanted to do. I didn't know what Momonga wanted, if he wanted to create an undead army, because they do mention that a lot, create an undead army, or if he just wanted to recruit them. I really don't know. The way where, you know, the people just come out of the carriage and it's Shaltier and her vampire brides, right? And the guys that were there, basically, they were there to rape. That was their reason to be there.
Yeah,
and,
you know.
Seeing them get their just desserts, I fucking enjoyed that. I actually fucking enjoyed, because it's like these people are there to do like a horrible act, and they're getting their, you know, what they fucking deserve.
Yeah, justice served.
100%. And what intrigued me about that scene was the way Shaltier would just mow them fucking down, and that little orb of blood. I was like, what is that? Like, what's that for? And you know, it just looks so nice. It's like, it's just there. It looks like kind of Kool-Aid. Like, imagine like an orb of Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, what I loved about that was the guy that brought them there, one of the servants. You know how she just opened her dress or whatever.
Yeah, she just like ate the guy.
Yeah. The guy was trying to grope her and it was like, ah! Like that's some scary shit, but he deserved it. It's those kind of moments, like, you see. It's weird because they're supposed to be the bad guys, but they're doing like good shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like legit, he saved Carney Village by like turning people into fucking zombies and like summoning like dead warriors and shit. Yeah, it definitely flips some tropes on its head, you know. Another thing is, honestly, I guess it kind of spoils what I'm going to say later for characters, but I do feel like episode 10, it kind of flips my perception of Shaltier, right? Because it does such a good job of, especially the last few episodes when they actually fight, you know, with Momonga. It does such a great job at displaying her power, right? She's fucking terrifying when she goes into her, you know, like her true form. She's like this vampire, like lamprey sort of fucking creature, you know? I really feel that it's in those moments when the characters, you know, like, you know, they take off their fucking gloves, they go like full power. That's when the combat really shines through, and it's just a fucking bloodbath, you know?
Of course, man. Like, when you see that sort of shit, it gets you hyped. Like, when I saw Shaltier just changing, I was like, whoa, what is this? It just got me excited, but at the same time, it was kind of confusing, because is that truly her most powerful form? Because she fought Momonga and she wasn't in that form. She had like this sort of Gundam armor going on. So I mean, like, was that really her true form, or was that more so she was just pissed off by the fact that her vampire brides had died, so she just got fucking angry? Do you know what I mean?
That's true, yeah.
Because to me, it doesn't seem like that's her most powerful form.
Yeah, it's just her true form. That's true. But yeah, man, just the entire last arc with Shaltier, I mean, I'm at a loss for words as to how to describe it. It's just, it was just such a nice breather from the, like, look, the middle arc was nice, right? The explorers and all that, it did a good job of establishing what world they live in, like the kind of people that inhabit it and all that, but it was kind of slow, right? And the last arc, they really take things up and crank it to 11 for fucking everything. It's got the most satisfying battle of the entire season.
You know why I would say that it's the most exciting battle? Only because you know Momonga is at a high disadvantage, right? And there was all this build up with all the references to all of his friends, and you see these flashbacks and shit. But when he starts using their equipment and he's just like one after another, it's like, shit, man. It's kind of like this sort of, I don't want to say this sort of friendship is magic type situation, but it is. Friendship is the true magic here. Like, using his friend's equipment was very satisfying for me. I think that was the payoff for me. It wasn't the fact that he beat Shaltier, it was just the fact that he's using touch me's, his armor, and he's using Shaltier's master's sword and all this shit. It's like, whoa. It's as if his friends are there fighting with him. That's what I liked about it.
Really, when you think of it, you're absolutely right. It really is, this friendship is magic sort of thing, but I didn't dislike it. Normally, I hate those sort of scenes in like shonen shows and all that, because I find it's really cheesy, it's very boring, it's been done to death, and it still falls into that trope in this case, but I think that it was well done. He doesn't go on this entire speech about how his friends saved him and he's going to defeat them with the power of friendship, whatever, right? He just transitions through all of their equipment really quickly, right? And it's a nice nod to them without going over the top, without being excessive, without overstaying its welcome either. And I think that's the way that more shows should handle this, right? Don't just we get it when I talk about friendship or whatever, but don't shove it in our faces and keep it on screen for like 3/4 of the episode. No one wants that,
As you said, it feels like more like a cameo of these characters just making their way through. It was a nice nod to them. I do agree with that. Well, another thing is just you see how Momonga think during that final fight, right?
Yes.
At the beginning of the fight, he doesn't go in intentionally because the game knowledge says, okay, if I don't go and attack her first, she won't attack me. So she's not going to be hostile until I make the first move. So then he's, when he started to do those spells and he was just saying those random words of English, I was thinking, what was that? It's like, what was that about? But it made sense.
All the buffs.
There's all the buffs and it's all like the protection and all these different things that he's doing. But it was so interesting because there was that one false data. That was the one that stood out. I was like, why is he casting something like false data? Like, what does that mean? And then I was realizing Shaltir is actually, looking at his MP and she's thinking, oh, I've taken down his MP, but only he made her think like that. The guy already had so much MP. Do you know what I mean? That was a smart thing.
It's like mind games. This is like it's the best battle. I think you can't even say anything. It's objectively the best battle.
Oh yeah,
right? Because there's just so many things that are done right. Before, I'm not saying the battles were bad or anything, but they were really short. Right? It was evident that he was gonna win. This is the only battle, I'd say, where you really feel that, okay, there's a struggle. You know he's going to win, obviously, right? But there's an actual sense of struggle for him, right? And even his floor guardians are like, the odds aren't in his favor. So not only is it, not only is there this struggle, but it's well thought out as well, because yes, you hear what he's thinking, but what I think I really appreciate personally as well is that you also hear what Shaltir is thinking, right? It's like they're playing mind games against each other, right? You hear what they're thinking, what their strategies are, and it kind of felt to me like I was watching this like sports casted battle between a player and another player, honestly, and that's what made it great, right? Because they're trying to like really outthink each other, right? Do some like 4D chess shit, Yeah, overall, I think that the last arc for me, it really it nails the sweet spot for everything that makes the show great. It's such a good climax for the series because there's some great action that's well animated. There's some mind games that's going on. There's some lore about the game itself, right? You get to develop the background of Momonga through his friends. You get to see a bit more of Shaltir, who had kind of been a trope up to that point.
Yeah, Shaltir was like the mistress, effectively. That was her.
Yeah, that
was the joke that they were trying to push on it. I was like, really? Is this really Shaltir? Even after the Shaltir battle, there were some moments within that episode where it kind of ties the whole anime together. Because in the middle arc, they only went out to fight and do quests because Momonga needed money because the money was useless.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. The fact that they used the money in the end to revive Shaltir, I was like, oh shit, okay. So there's a use for that, man. Like, it all kind of ties in. It's just so interesting. Like, at least that money's not gone to waste, at least the way I'm seeing it. It's stuff like that, man. It's like, there's just all that sort of stuff. And part of me wanted to know, okay, I want to know more what happened to Shaltir, who mind controlled her. But the anime does a great job at like making you want to know other things more. Like in any other anime, this would be my main priority. But I want to know what happens next. Like, I really want to know, like, at the end of that, where they would normally play the outro, the ending, they continued on what was going on, kind of setting up for season 2, and just like, Alabado was like, oh, if you have an undead army, they can only be like level 40 if they're humans, but there is this lizard men town next thing over. So it's like, oh, okay, so season 2, they're gonna fight the lizard men. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, it sets it up for that, and it kind of takes away my focus from who brainwashed Shaltir and all of this and and that kind of stuff. And for an anime to do that, like actually change your focus into something that is less important, is insane. I don't know. I've never seen an anime that was able to do that before this show.
But do you find that it's a positive thing, or do you?
Oh, it's a positive. 100%.
Okay.
It's a positive thing, because to be honest, if my focus is where is the guy, blah 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 blah, then by the end of the anime I'll feel dissatisfied. Do you see what I mean? Because then I would be like, well, it's not self-contained. I didn't get to see what's happened. I wasn't even given a glimpse of what's happening. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because for example, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say they revealed the person who brainwashed and Momonga defeated that person within 2 episodes. Would it feel very satisfying? No, it doesn't. It would feel more...
because all of that hype for like an entire season of hype for nothing.
That's it. So I'm glad that they went the way they did to kind of let me forget about the dude that brainwashed Shaltir and focus on something else, because potentially that might come up in the 2nd season, that might come up in the 3rd season of the show.
But they do kind of tease it though. If you remember at the end, not only do they mention that, but they also cut to like this dark throne room, right? With the slain theocracy. You get this guy kneeling in front of this council of priests and all that. So they divert your attention a bit, right? They're like, oh, we're gonna attack this lizardman village. So they give you something to expect, but they also tease you just a bit to pique your interest, right? To get you motivated to watch the 2nd season. So I really think that they hit this, sweet spot where it's like, okay, you have enough information about what happened to be satisfied, but they withhold just enough so that you want to, marathon the 2nd season as soon as you're done, right? I really think that they really stuck the landing for this series.
Oh, definitely.
I'm just thinking of other shows that we've covered, like recently, actually, The World Only God Knows, that had like the worst last episode in recent memory for me, and this is kind of like the polar opposite of that. It's just this cherry on top of the cake. It ties everything together. It gives you a bit more to look forward to, right? And it's a great final arc as well. The battle, the story, it's just a good climax that wraps everything up nicely. Another thing I'd like to mention about this show is that the 2nd time I watched it, I didn't understand why I liked it so much, right? And the 3rd time I finally got it, because usually I don't like overpowered characters. Like I remember saying in the Attack on Titan episode, I feel that Mikasa is a Mary Sue. She's like, oh yeah, super badass, and she like defeats everyone and stuff. And I was really asking myself, why do I not feel the same way about Overlord? Why am I so intrigued by this show? Why am I cheering for Manga when he is clearly overpowered as well, right? He's like one-shotting people left, right, and center. Why don't I feel that he is a cheap mechanic that it's boring to watch? And I finally got my finger on it. It's because I think that they're really upfront and honest about it. They're not hiding the fact that, he's overpowered. He's not trying to have you believe that, he's a struggling character, right? And they're not hiding that at all. They explicitly state upfront that he's OP in the world that they're in, right? It feels like One Punch Man. Because of that honesty, it feels satisfying, right? They take that and they run with it, right? They make the battles comedic, right? It's hilariously lopsided in the manga's favor. So there's this like comedic aspect of the battles.
It's something that you mentioned, that you say he doesn't struggle. Yeah, he doesn't struggle in battles 100%, but he struggles with the more, until the end. But he struggles, you see him struggling with the more human aspect of things. You see him struggle with the emotional aspect of things, right? Especially with Shaltir, like he was saying, I'm gonna kill Shaltir, whatever. He didn't mention to them that he was gonna revive her. He didn't even mention it, you know what I mean? So it's like things like that, making those tough decisions, whether or not to save someone or to kill someone, etc. Like all these sort of things are difficult.
That is true, yeah.
That's where I see it, at least. That's where his weakness is.
He's not overpowered in all aspects, right? He has these mental weaknesses, right? He was even, if I remember correctly, one of the reasons why he's struggling with Shaltir and the decision to kill her or not, or let his floor guardians kill her, is because he's remembering his friends, right? And all the time that they spent together crafting these NPCs and their backstories, and he's like, I can't have them fight each other, right? They mean too much to me. I'll take care of this myself.
But you see at times Momonga, I don't know if it's the game or some sort of supernatural element that's stopping him from showing more human emotions. Like you see it in the more sort of sexual scenes in the show, when he's that sort of stuff, that he's being pulled back. There's something that's pulling him back. Even when there's moments that he wants to cry, he's being pulled back from it.
That was actually never answered though in the first season. I don't remember that being. Not. It's just he doesn't know why it happens. It just does. He even mentions that he feels that he's changing. He's like, normally I would have hurled at the sight of people being killed like this and all that, but I'm just so cold now. So he's like, did I change? What's going on with this world, right? what has happened to me. And I think that really speaks volumes about his character, which we want to get into now. How do you feel about Momonga as a protagonist? You know, we've already established that he's really relatable, right? But what else sticks out to you personally?
What I like is the juxtaposition of Momonga, right? You look at Momonga, you think he's going to be this fucking scary guy. Even when he showed himself to the people of Khan Village, right? It's like they were scared of 100%, to the point that he had to obviously memory wipe them, the people that saw his face, right? The two young girls. So you would look at him and you're like, what the fuck is this guy? And then you kind of learn more about him, and you learn that he's peaceful, he's nice, he's willing to help people. There was no real reason for him to go on a journey with the other adventurers or anything like that, but he decided, okay, I'll help. It's a weird one because you wouldn't expect him from a character like that. Like I said, this anime makes you think that these guys are supposed to be bad, and it flips it on their head. And that's what I like about Momonga, is that he's actually, at the end of the day, he's a human being. Like he's still a human being stuck in this guy's body. He still sort of runs fairly as if he was running it in the game, because in the game there are still morals. Do you see what I mean? It's not like there isn't humanity's morals or whatever. There's still rules, regulations. So he's still running it like that, and he's basing his rule off, you know, how his friends were, and I really do appreciate that. I think Momonga is a very loyal person. We see that even the NPCs, right? They're all loyal because they're programmed to be loyal. But Momonga, with his friends and their honor and, you know, their legacy, he's passing that on. And even the fact that he's taking on the names Ainz, it's the name of the guild, so he's taking that on himself, and I find that very admirable.
You're absolutely right, but I have a question for you now, because I'm going to ask you a question that I asked myself a lot while I was watching this. Do you find it sad what he's going through? And what I mean by this is, I sort of felt that, okay, yes, he's respectful of his past friends and all that, but there's this little voice at the back of my head. I couldn't help but think, like, maybe there's a problem. Maybe he's just denying reality and he just doesn't want to move on. He's just clinging to his past guildmates, right? They've all moved on in life, right? And he's still clinging to this one thing. You know, like, do you think it's a problem? How do you see it?
I don't necessarily think of it as a problem. I do agree with you. He is clinging onto it, hence why he's the only one left in the game. He doesn't want, you know, that sort of... In a way, at the beginning, I was thinking, oh, okay, so he doesn't want to go back to reality because he has friends in this world. He's made memories in this world. He's, you know, it seems that Momonga in real life had a shitty life, right? And he goes to this game for some sort of solace. He meets up with his friends, etc.
Like escape from reality.
Yeah, and the fact that it's become his reality, I don't really see it as an issue that he always looks back. I feel that he feels the same way as he did before now in this new game. Well, not in the new game, in this new reality of his, because, you know, he's alone again. He's alone again, and these people that are NPCs, I don't think he can really console and confide in them, only because they were beings that were created by his friends, right? So I still think he kind of treats them as NPCs. I don't really think he has proper conversations with them, and obviously because he's higher up than them, it's really awkward to have like one-to-one conversations, or it's like a boss being best friends with his employee. Yeah. It just doesn't happen.
If anything, I think that you're right in saying that, you know, he doesn't really see them as fully human yet, even though they have emotions. I think that he really respects them a lot, mainly because they're the creations of his friends. Like, he respects them because they're this missing link between his old guildmates who are no longer there, you know? I don't think we've really seen any of the NPCs fully act human yet. I really think that they're still quite, you know, programmed in their personality and their behavior.
I disagree with you. I think the only one, I forgot his name, the demon guy, has such a difficult...
Demiurge, right?
Yeah, that guy, I think he has the most sort of human emotions, right? Especially in the final battle when he's looking on, he was like, no, we need to rush in there. We need to, even if it's going to cost us our lives, even if Momonga wins and he kills us because of our defiance, we need to rush in there. So the fact that he's done that form of sort of rebellion, that form of defiance in itself, kind of makes me think that he's the most human out of them all.
That is true, but it's just that it's a shame that we don't see more of him, though, right? And, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of dismissed him in my first watch through, because oh my god, he was so sus. He was so suspicious, man. I was like 100% he's gonna somehow backstab Momonga, right? Because he was acting like, you know, this scheming mastermind, right? And I really expected him to backstab him because he was plotting a lot during the first few episodes. In a way, I guess it's kind of because his design with the glasses and shit reminds me of like Kabuto from Naruto, but I don't know, I couldn't really trust him the first time through, and even the second and third times that I watched it, it wasn't until, like, it's only then that I really understood his character, right? He's just viciously loyal, like you said, but he's not over the top about it. There's this certain depth to his character.
To some degree, Kevin, like you were saying that you thought he was gonna rebel or he would backstab him in a sense. So to begin with, I don't think that any of the characters would have done that because they were programmed in a specific way. And it's evident from the beginning where Momonga is changing Albedo from a bitch to someone that loves Momonga, right? So the fact that that trait still remains there, that it's hardwired into them. Even Shaltae, the only reason that she rebelled was because she was being brainwashed. So I didn't think at one point, like Demigod, whatever his name is, I didn't think that he was going to backstab him because of the rules that were set out.
I just had no idea what those rules were, though. I don't know if it was the same, if all the NPCs had the same loyalty, because just the way that in the first episode, right, like he wants to go outside and see the sky or whatever, right? And I know, like, in retrospect, right, he was obviously trying to look out for Momonga, but the fact that he had these like 3 demons waiting for him and shit, I was like, is he spying on Momonga? Is he what's his what's his motive here, right? I was really suspicious of what he was trying to do initially.
And maybe that is something that you might find out in a second season. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there's always some sort of plot points that might be like that, because obviously Momonga's looking for those friends of his, right? Not necessarily friends, other players, but he's...
Just other human players.
Yeah, but he did mention at one point that he was hoping that at least one of his friends might be alive, and it might be the case that one of his friends are alive.
I get your point of, Demiurge being well-developed. Actually, I didn't really consider his human side before you brought it up. Because for me, honestly, I think Demiurge is the exception. I want to know what you feel about Albedo and Shaltae and some of the other NPCs, because I don't feel that you can say the same thing about them.
No,
I feel that a lot of them are just two-dimensional.
Bear in mind, they are NPCs at the end of the day, so they are very two-dimensional. I'm intrigued with Albedo in the sense that, yeah, she's obsessed with him and she's insanely loyal towards him, but as you said, yes, she's very 2D. I think the only thing that actually saves her character is the amount of dialogue her and Momonga have.
But what you get out of that dialogue, though, is my question.
I feel that you learn more about Momonga with the dialogue that they have, even if it's silly dialogue, right? You get to see those moments where Momonga has to pull back, especially like, you kind of feel that, yes, it is mostly comic relief, etc., but you see the human side of Momonga a bit more when he deals with Albedo, right? So, at least in my opinion, with Shaltae, I think she's even more of a 2D character, right?
But the thing is, what you just said, I agree with your point. The conversations with Albedo certainly develop Momonga, but I think we're both in agreement that Momonga is a solid main character.
Oh, 100%.
I'm not contesting that at all. I'm just wondering about Albedo herself.
Oh no, with Albedo,
I find her really flat.
She is a flat character. The majority of the characters here, whether it's Albedo, Shaltae, obviously you do get a little bit for Shaltae towards the end, but that's not even her, herself. That's her being brainwashed, right? Albedo, it's either Albedo, whatever. I think the characters that I find are kind of a little bit more well developed are the twins, because you see them being mischievous.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. You don't see a lot of them, but you see how they act, and you see there's night and day, right? Their personalities are well defined, especially Mare. I think Mare is, in terms of all of them, very interesting, because it seems that he doesn't want to partake in all of this. Like, he'll say something, you'll be like, oh, and be okay. Don't tell her off too much. Don't kill her or whatever. Do you see what I mean? So you kind of get that. I kind of seen those two as one character as opposed to two, if you get what I'm saying. Not because they're twins, but because...
Honestly, I'd have to get you to elaborate on that.
What I mean by that is that one of them by themselves is very unremarkable, but the fact that they're both together and they both do stuff together, that's what makes them seem more interesting. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can't have one without the other because they're polar opposites.
I just feel like this twins thing with polar opposite personalities.
It's cliche, I get it.
Just it's a cliche that we've seen before, right? And I feel that even if you look at Mare and his sister, right, as individual characters, I don't see what they do in the first season that really develops their characters. From Mare, I find that, it's the cliche, cross-dressed young boy and all that. If anything, it's like the anti-Yukimura, right, of this show, if you will. It's like a gender-bent Yukimura. right? Super shy and all that, unsure, low confidence and all that, cross-dressed. We've seen that a lot before. Mare, same thing, or sorry, his sister, same thing. You know, we've seen those personality types before, and there's nothing wrong with starting out like that. It's just that they never go past that. You never spend enough time with them to see the other side of their characters, and that's kind of frustrating for me, especially with, like, you know, even more important NPCs like Albedo, right, who's like the main NPC. He was mentioning in the first episode how there's like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of lore and backstory that her creator created for her, right? So it's like, where is that lore? Where's that backstory? We don't see any of that.
You kind of see this sort of lore and backstory from
Pandora's actor,
right? So he's the only NPC that's made by Momonga, right? So by the fact that he's the one that made him, Momonga's explaining, Momonga's giving that exposition about that NPC. And I think the only reason that they're not going to give exposition about the NPCs is because those characters aren't there, or at least there isn't a flashback when those NPCs were created.
I'm not saying that, you know, they need to have an exposition. Like, I'd be against that, actually. Against them just, you know, reading the backstory.
So what do you want? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you want her backstory to be revealed a bit more?
I just found that, you know, something like them in combat together, like what they kind of did with the Shouts here, but a bit more in depth perhaps, just a more organic way of integrating them into the backstory, or in the dialogues at least, you know?
You mentioned, you know, them in battle, like you want them to have conversations about their past battles or whatever. Like, I don't understand, because, for example, if that's the case, Momonga's never really been in battle before, and he does mention it when he's fighting Chaltier, saying this is the first time I'm on the front lines, right? Momonga is like a spellcaster. He's not really a guy that's actually having battle. So
I think that's irrelevant, though. How much combat experience he has is irrelevant. Just, like, you know, find a way of getting them to talk about, you know, how she was created and stuff.
But there's no need.
The other aspects of her personality, other than, because they have so much dialogue, right? Momonga and Albedo, and like 99% of that dialogue is, oh my god, she has the hots for Momonga, or, you know, her getting into an argument with Shoutier. It's just like there's so much wasted potential in life.
That is true. I do agree with you, but that's also because Momonga altered her programming to make it be like that.
He altered one line. There were paragraphs of it, is my point. We only see that one line that he altered in her personality. We never see the paragraphs.
The only reason that we don't see that is because we don't see her without Momonga. We only see her with Momonga, or if Momonga is being
referenced. See her without Momonga, though. You forgot that one scene with that one fucking creepy, like, it reminded me of the Senna scene, actually, from Haganai, you know, where, like, Senna has, like, the Dakimakura.
Yeah.
Right? Well, anyways, you remember that one scene where Demiurge finds her in, like...
Yeah, I do remember that.
That scene.
But even then, all of her scenes revolve around Momonga. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's exactly my issue. Like, it's not even that it revolves around Momonga.
There's no point within the anime where she's not talking about Momonga, because she's insanely in love with Momonga.
I know, but just because you talk about someone, though, Bish, doesn't mean that you're going to talk about how you love them all the time, you know?
I get 100%, but she's at, like, stalker level, right? So imagine if she was having a conversation. I think the way they could have done it was that if she was having a conversation about the battle with maybe Cocytus, or maybe with a different character, because Cocytus would make sense for her to have a discussion with a battle, and then she'll probably bring up her creation, etc. Because you do see that a bit with Shoutier. Like, Shoutier always mentions her creator. She always mentions it. So you kind of see that with certain characters more than others. Yeah,
but I just don't feel you get that with Albedo, and it's such a shame, too, because she's literally in the ending. If you look at the promo art, she's like, you know, she's plastered front and center.
She's there for fan service. That's why she's there.
And it's such a shame. It is such a waste of a character, in my opinion. And I know that this is just an adaptation of a light novel. They can't change the source material, but nevertheless, I just feel that it is a shame that a lot of them are just kind of so two-dimensional, right? I get that they're all obsessed with,
but I think that's their point.
Momonga, because he's one of the player characters, but there are so many different ways that you can get them to interact with Momonga that doesn't revolve around it being a joke.
I see where they're going with it, because they were designed to be NPCs, right? Even in this new world, because even if you look at the rest of the characters within this new world, they're creation of the world. They're not creation of Momonga or of the guild, right? So they're still being treated as if they're Nazarick NPCs, right? But that's because they are. And
I know, I get that, right? But I just don't think that it's necessarily relevant to the debate here, because yes, they're NPCs, but I just think that I understand that they have to show that they're loyal to them. I just feel that it's overdone in my opinion, and that a lot of their dialogue, too much of it is just focused on that one thing instead of fleshing out their characters. Because if you look at it, even Enri, right, even the pharmacist and Infuria, there we go. Even though they are also, characters, they're video game characters in that world, I feel that they have a bit more
Kevin,
more depth
I
to
just
them.
want to stop you there. They're not NPCs. It's not stated that
Yes, they are.
They're not. It's not stated that they're NPCs. You do know that.
What do you mean, dude? Everyone who isn't a player is an NPC.
No,
there's not a Nazarick NPC.
No, that's not right. That's not correct. The reason why I say that, Kevin, is because it's already established that they're not in Yggdrasil anymore. So it's established that they're not there. So you don't know where this world is. If for example, if this is reality, if they've made Yggdrasil a reality or whatever, that would imply that the characters there are not NPCs. Even the other NPCs that are there, they don't need to eat. It's mentioned. They don't need to eat, they don't need to drink, they don't need to, and it's mentioned there. And you see that. You don't see them eating, you don't see them drinking, or any time. Even Nabe, the one that's with Momonga when he's prancing around as Momon, right? So it's like, you see all of the other NPCs, as you like to call them, they're drinking, they're eating the bread, sandwich, or whatever. So I don't
But maybe they're programmed to do that, though.
No,
right?
Kevin,
The
I don't
way
think
I understood
they're
it
NPCs.
was that they took Yggdrasil's world and it's all jumbled up and shit.
No,
right?
It's not. Because he says it all the time, because he knows it's not Yggdrasil, whatever. He knows it's not that. He can see that there is magic that is available to use, but he also mentions the fact that there are magic users that don't use certain levels of magic, right? So if this is a world that they don't use certain level of magic, and the only reason that he's OP is because it's not Yggdrasil, has nothing to do with Yggdrasil. So this is probably a medieval world that does use magic, but doesn't use god tier magic like Yggdrasil. That's what I'm thinking. I don't want to get too much into this, but you're treating these people as like, you're not really focusing on the fact that all of the people in Nazarick are NPCs and should be treated as such. I get it, there isn't any much character development or whatever, but that's because this first season still treats them as NPCs, and even Momonga does. Momonga gives them a command, they do it.
Yeah, I know, but there's some new. I don't think it's black and white. Okay, you're either a complete obedient mind slave that's always following Momonga, or you're a fully fleshed out character. I think there's this sort of balance you can have, as you said with DMMORPG, right? You can have a better balance rather than just this. Okay, either you're always obsessed over him and you're having trophy fights with Shaltier over him, or you're one of the normal villagers and stuff, right? I just find that they didn't strike this balance. And that's kind of a shame, right? Because they show that they can create human characters and stuff through Momonga, but I'm not asking that they're completely human, just add a bit more depth to them, because I really feel that a lot of them are very, very shallow, unfortunately. And even the ones that you spend a lot of time with, right? I understand NPCs like Cocytus or the Pleiades, right? Not having any personality, just being like full-on NPC, because they've got 2 minutes of screen time in total,
yeah,
right? But for other ones, I just find that it's not satisfying.
For me, a character that I really did enjoy was Nabe. And I'm not talking about made version, I'm just talking about standard Nabe that went off to fight with Momon, right? I did appreciate that. I thought that was fucking amazing. She was sick.
Oh, it was fucking funny. It was hilarious.
It wasn't necessarily just funny. It was just so good. It was just the fact that the personality, she's a very dry personality, especially as Nabe, right? And then the way she fights those dragons, that was fucking interesting. I enjoyed that. I did enjoy that. Is there any other characters that you want to talk about specifically?
Actually, I mean, on Nabe, I still do think that, she still has that, loyalty that's a large part of her personality, right? But I do feel that, at least with her, you see this other side to her, right? You see that, she fucking despises humans and all that. She thinks herself above them and all that through her interactions with the villagers and with...
All of them despise humans. Even
Yeah,
Shaltier and even
I know.
Albado.
But I think that since Momonga spends so much time with her in the middle arc, you really get to see that in action, right? She, through her dialogue with the explorers, right? It's not just, through passing dialogue with Momonga. She gets a little bit more interaction.
Going back to Albado, do you think it would have been better if Albado was included as a substitution to Nabe?
I think there are pros and cons on both sides, right? Because on one hand, you don't want it to be hyper focused on just Momonga and Albedo, but I do feel that by including Nabe, it was a good mix-up. It was a refreshing change in cast. There's this diversity that they had. It wasn't just Momonga with the same NPCs constantly. Other than that, no important characters really. Like, I just have this last point on, I guess, the explorers, right? And it's just to mention that their death is sad, I suppose, but I personally didn't feel too much attachment to them. I know you're supposed to feel sad when they die. For me, it was just like, oh, that's a shame. Because even in the first watch through, I kind of expected them to not last, right? I was like, what are these like 5 brand new characters that are introduced in the middle of the season, right? I thought it's pretty obvious that A, once this quest was done, they just get sidelined, or B, they die, right? Because it is kind of a brutal show. So I don't know. Did you connect to those adventures or not? That's my
100%.
question.
I didn't. As you said, yeah. Even me seeing that first time, I was like, oh, these guys are gonna die. There's no way they're gonna last. Because even if they were, how is that going to affect the whole story, and how is that going to affect seeing Momonga? It wouldn't have made sense. What if they went back home to Nazarick with Momonga? These are human beings. They will freak out. They would freak out. I don't think that they would have stayed with Momonga, even if they weren't going to die. But I just assumed that they weren't going to last long. Because they kind of seem like a plot device. They're only there, like, if they weren't killed, there's no reason for him to go after Clementine, right? Other than whatever his name is. It
really is. I just brought that up because a lot of people I talked to who watched Overlord, they're like, oh man, I really appreciated the explorers. It added a whole bunch of depth. It really made you feel for them and stuff. And some of them were like, they didn't expect the death of those of the adventurers. And for me, it's kind of like the opposite case, right? I'm not saying it's bad. They weren't like badly developed, but I wasn't expecting much from them to begin with. You know what I mean?
No, I 100% completely agree with you.
But other than these character deaths and all that, I think that the show also does a pretty good, it conveys this dark atmosphere and the game world very well through its visuals and design as well. So I just wondering if you had any comments on that, in particular the art style and the animation that is employed.
So the art style animation, that's an interesting one for me. The colors are great. The fact that you have some very swift animations with the fighting scenes, etc., they were very interesting, especially the use of magic, or the way they shaded characters when Momonga was applying buffs to himself. I really did appreciate that. One thing that I liked the most was there's just a vast amount of different sceneries. You get the villages, you get the forest, you get the desert at one point when he's fighting with Shaltir, you get nighttime, you get Nazarick, it's just insane, like the amount of different backgrounds that you get and the amount of different stuff that you see. It's you wouldn't really expect it in a show like this, especially in Isekai. Like, for the most part, Isekais tend to have, you always have your village, you always have your castle fights, and you always have your forests. But even then, like, there's so many different locations in this anime. It's amazing to me. Even you get episodes at nighttime, you get episodes in the day. It kind of varies it a bit. One thing that I do want to say, and it's a little bit of a gripe for me, 3D animation. It's pretty shit.
Really?
It is pretty shit.
Really?
In this anime.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna have to fight you on that one because what scenes in particular actually? Because for me it depends.
In the beginning, when the anime was, when it's established that Momonga's, with his undead army, whatever, fighting those adventurers in the beginning of the show, literally before Nazarick falls or whatever. When that happens and I see these skeletons, I'm like, okay, cool. Momonga's also undead, so how come he's not 3D animated but these skeletons are? And I know the reason why is because they are the same. They are designed the same. You just need to do one 3D model and then you copy and paste it onto the screen and render it. Because their animations were pretty much all the same. I get that. I understand. It's just a technique that they use. One thing that I didn't like in particular, and this one thing that stood out for me the most, was Nabe's fight with the dragon.
Yeah, no, I was expecting you to bring up the dragon actually, because I agree the dragon was really, like, it was bad. It was just bad. It was painful. It was a great fight. That took away from it, and unfortunately.
Part of me understands why they did it like this and why it was a bone dragon. I'm using air quotes in real life, but I mean, why it was a bone dragon. I think it's because of how they rendered it, because it looks like, I don't know if anyone knows 3ds Max or anyone listening, there's a material.
Oh yeah.
There's a material within the program called Ink and Paint. Basically, it gives things like a sort of drawing style to it. I'm not sure if you noticed that with the dragons. Like, they don't necessarily look 3D. It's this weird sort of mix between 2D and 3D, but that rest assured, that's all done in 3D. And it's a cheap way of making things look pseudo 3D, pseudo 2D type thing. But that wasn't really the main thing that annoyed me. What annoyed me, there was a scene where she's jumping from dragon to dragon, and it seemed as if someone sort of green screened the dragons in behind her. So they probably sketched that out first and then put the dragons behind her. Like, it didn't seem that she was actually jumping from one dragon to another. Do you see what I mean? Like, part of me also finds that this 3D animation didn't need to be there. It just felt like a cost-effective thing, or time effective, like you're saving on time and probably saving on money as well, because I think it would have been better to see that bone dragon drawn. Do you agree with me?
I completely agree there. What I do want to bring up though is, okay, yeah, other than the horrendous looking 3D dragon that they probably did just use CG for to save on the budget, because that's real. It was, I imagine a bone dragon is no simple thing to animate, right? It's got a lot of parts, a lot of bones, right? And it takes some time. But the reason why I found that, barring that case, the CG for me was quite good is because I remember this in the first few episodes, episode 3, I believe, or end of episode 2, when you see Gazef Stonov, right, the head warrior, they're heading towards Karni village, like on horseback, right? I had to do a double take multiple times. Like I literally had to pause and like rewatch that scene a couple of times because I wasn't sure if the horses were actually CG or not, right? And they are CG. It's just the way that they shaded it, type of blending that they do with the huge dust trail that the horses leave behind. It's very remarkable, right? It blends in the horses very well, and the 3D gives this fluid motion to it, so it's really lifelike. But I didn't notice that it was CG, right? Because it wasn't popping out like a sore thumb like the dragon.
There's some things, Kevin, that I do want to point out to you, that there's some 3D artists in general. There's this I forgot, there was this YouTuber that I recently was watching, because I keep up to date with this sort of 3D design, etc. What they do is that they'll animate the base in 3D and they'll draw over it. So that might be the case there. Like, it was in 3D.
Very possible, yeah.
And then they just drew over it. And that's a great method of doing it. And don't get me wrong, I didn't notice it either until you brought it up. One thing that I do have to say is that also at the same time, that was another scene where there was multiple of the same instance heading off to a goal, movement, etc. in a mass. So it's like there's more than one horse that was moving, correct in saying that, yeah?
Yeah, it's an entire cavalry unit.
To me, it just seems, once again, that was used as a cost-saving measure. They just wanted to get as many things as possible so then they can render it, so they don't have to draw out all of these horses. It's a copy and paste job. Like, that's what it seemed to me. But I mean,
I agree. But one, to play the devil's advocate here, I think that there's also an artistic effect to it too. And you're wondering earlier, why are they making the skeletons 3D animated, right? I think that on top of, the obvious answer, which is it saves time and money, is that I feel that when you have like lots of the same object, right, that you can copy and paste and stuff, which applies both to the case of the horses and to the army of like skeletons, is that when you have 3D animated objects and you have a whole mass of them, right, you want to convey just like how big this cavalry unit or how big this army of the undead is. It really, the fact that it's not just 2D layers on top of each other, but they're really 3D objects that kind of pop out of the screen that have this third dimension to them. It really adds to, the volume of the shot, right? It really makes you feel that, there's a lot of horses, a lot of undead in this army, right?
I do say that is a bit effective. The one thing that was a bit jarring for me was because Momonga's also a skeleton, and when you see them next to Momonga, it's like, oh, okay, that's a bit weird. Like,
that is true, yeah. It's kind of weird to see this juxtaposition between like 2D skeleton versus 3D animated skeletons. It is kind of weird.
Because even like they use it in such awkward places as well. Like Momonga's staff, like sometimes it's 2D and sometimes it's 3D when it's floating around and turning around, because it floats around by itself, right? So it's like, why would you have it 2D when it's in his hand and when you're not using it 3D? That doesn't make sense.
It is kind of weird, but I think the rationale behind that is that when he lets go of it, it doesn't just like fall down, it floats there, right? Yeah. Creating this like floating object, right, conveying that feeling is kind of hard to do in 2D. And also usually in MMORPGs and stuff, in games, right, you see those real life objects in 3D. Even if the MMO has like 2D backgrounds or whatever, those objects will usually be done in 3D themselves. So I think that for me, it conveyed this sort of like, is this callback to
the game world,
to games?
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. I didn't think about it like that. That's very smart, actually. If I'm thinking about it like that, yeah. it does kind of refer to the game world that they used to be in. I get it. That makes sense. I really want to get into, just to wrap this up, I really want to get into like music, opening and ending. What do you think?
Okay, I find that both the opening and ending are pretty solid. In terms of the opening, I find that, okay, animation-wise, it's aight, you know, it's not bad, it's not great. It's kind of what your standard opening is. You see all the characters go on screen and sequence and all that. Nothing bad, but where it really shines is the music. I find that it's got this beat to it. It's got a little bit of, it's got a bit of power to it as well to hype you up, right? And that's what you want in an opening for this kind of show, right? Where there's a lot of action, it does that very well. But for me personally, out of the two, I gotta say I like the music of the ending.
Okay.
A lot better. Just because there's so much energy to it. There's this faster pace and there's just like this kind of like very light like screamo feel to it, right? It was really, really hype-inducing. It was really good, and I never really skipped the ending. Whereas the opening, I was like, okay, I like it, but I can live with that.
Okay, I'm the other way around. The opening, I don't skip it, only because it's just so fucking hype. It kind of reminds me of like My Hero type openings, you know what I mean?
It does.
It's there for building hype. I think the ending, I like the animation of the ending better. It kind of reminds me of a lot of animes, a lot of romance animes actually do this.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, I think we're completely opposite here, because I was like, okay, the animation of the opening is like alright, not great, not terrible. But for me, the animation of the ending was kind of meh. Like it was just like this pan of this photo of like Albedo and some different shots and all that. It wasn't really as visually pleasing. There wasn't much going on. You know what I mean?
I get you. Like I said, I only enjoyed it because a lot of romance anime do that sort of ending sort of animation, where it's just like a pan of a really beautifully done piece of artwork that kind of looks like fan art or probably like concept art or something like that. Like even like Vocaloid songs. There's this one Vocaloid song that reminds me of it. I can't remember what it is. I think it's called, no, it's not Bad Apple. It's something else. It's one with these angels, right? And it kind of reminds me of that. If someone remembers it, just please tell me what it is. A Fallen Angel or something like that. But anyway, it's like, it reminds me of that. It kind of reminds me of this sort of holy yet not holy sort of situation, sort of religious at the same time. Just because of the amount of colors that we use, the light colors, you know, it just made me feel like Albedo was an angel with black wings, because she did have that.
It is true. It's just, I have a point and a question for
you.
My point was, okay, I get that Albedo is the focus of the ending. Okay, she's supposed to be one of the main characters, but I can't help but think like, man, I get that Albedo's supposed to be important, but I don't want to, beat a dead horse, but I just can't shake this feeling that, what does she do in the show that warrants her? Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Like,
but that's,
other than
that's
that, what warrants her having the entire focus of the ending on her? Whereas the opening had this, it presented all the characters, and it's a good representation of the show. I feel like she kind of unjustly, in a way, steals the spotlight, right? And my question for you is, okay, I get your point. I do agree, like the animation for the ending isn't bad. I just felt that it was kind of out of place, like you make an excellent point in saying that, yes, it's very common in rom-coms and like romance shows, right? But do you feel that it has its place here? Because I don't know if I would personally say that this is like a rom-com or harem or romance show. It doesn't feel like that. No, it
doesn't, but I mean, it works well with the music. Like the music and the actual artwork that's being shown works well, even if that doesn't necessarily work well with the show at hand. But the music works well with the show, and this works well with the music, so it kind of ties together, at least for me, right? It kind of like I said, it's like it kind of, those anime music videos, AMVs, like that's what it was. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So
all the rage on YouTube back in like 2007.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I can't believe we even got the same year as 2007. But yeah, it's the same feeling. So I do agree with you. It doesn't make sense for that to be there in this anime, but there is an exception. Just because the music is so good, it kind of covers the sins of the actual animation. It's non-existent, but there you go. Would you like to see a season 2?
Yes. Again, it just goes back to the last arc. It was so well done, and I just can't stress this enough. Like, it takes everything that was done well in the season, and it just takes it to the max. And like you said, it gives you just enough information so that you're satisfied with what happens. It withholds just enough so that you want to find out what happens immediately after. Like, I wanted to go watch season 2 right away and find out more about this world. Who the hell controlled Shaltier, right? Was it a human player? What's going on? I wanted to continue the second season, so I absolutely would see a second season, no doubt about it. How about you?
I agree. I think second season for me, I'm pretty hyped about it. Probably after this recording, I will start on second season just because I've been looking forward to it for the past couple of weeks. It's just so well done, as you said. The way that the final episode sets it up for a second season is just phenomenal, and I've never seen an anime that does that. Now, would I recommend it?
Yeah, like who'd you recommend to, and like what are your main gripes, or what should people look out for if you were to recommend this to them?
If you're gonna watch it, be prepared for the amount of gore that there is. Obviously, I was a bit overexcited with it and I wanted more, but it's not for everyone.
I don't get you, Bish. You're like, for this, you're like, fuck yeah, there's not enough gore, and after for another, you're like, yeah, I almost dropped it.
Because another, it's innocents that are dying. In this one, it's people that deserve it, so I'm alright with it.
All right, so it's only when infidels die.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, right?
It's only when they fucking deserve it and they kill people. I'm like, fuck you, you deserve to die. Like, that's what I felt. But regardless, I think if you're not really necessarily into gore, then okay, then don't watch the show. It probably isn't for you. I think if you're new to anime, this is a show to watch because it kind of eases you in. It gives you a good feeling as well. Like, you want to root for Momonga, you want to root for the apparent bad guy. You learn also about the characters. You get like relationships. It's got everything in it. Like there's aspects of romance, there's aspects of comedy, there's aspects of friendship, action, everything.
I mean, that being said though, I wouldn't like this. Maybe be one of the first shows I'd recommend to someone, but this absolutely would not be like the first show that I'd start them on, just because as good as the action is, as good as the world building is, I just find that there are shows that have a better balance of all these things and character development. Like Momonga, great character. I just find that it's kind of held back, unfortunately, by some of the NPCs, a lot of the NPCs, honestly. Maybe if I wanted to convince people like, hey, look at this, anime is, it's to be taken seriously and all that, I wouldn't start with this right away, but it definitely has a very solid base, solid main character that's very relatable, very satisfying combat as well, and excellent pacing, really, and it finishes with a bang, too.
I completely agree with you, and I think, like I said, I would recommend it to that sort of person. I think someone that, yeah, as you mentioned it might not be for everyone. I wouldn't say, as you said, I wouldn't say it to be for the first person, like the first anime or whatever. I think there are better shows that do that, like something like My Hero would make more sense as a good all-rounder anime for everyone to watch for the first time. Like, even my mum, she's getting into anime and she's watching My Hero. That's like the first thing that she's watching. But this is, like I said, because it is sort of a niche in a sense, because like it's isekai, but it's not isekai. It's like dark, but
that's the thing. Actually, I wanted to ask you, while we're talking about recommendations, would you recommend this as an isekai?
No.
To someone?
No, I wouldn't say this.
Yeah, same, because it's technically an isekai in category, but in form, in depth, in execution, it really doesn't feel like an isekai.
It feels more like a shonen show.
It does,
yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm kind of glad that it isn't the case, because there are just so many isekai shows. It's been done to death. I'm getting tired of this genre, to be completely honest with you. And I'm glad that Overlord doesn't fall into the same tropes we've seen a million times already, and that it stays true to its source material, and that it carves its own path.
Completely agree with you, man.
But overall, I think that we've had a great discussion today. Lots of great stuff thanks to this show. Good discussions on, just the pacing, the world of Yggdrasil, and the new world they've been transported to. And really thank all of you guys for tuning in and listening to this episode. So just let us know what you guys think. Do you agree with us on the characters and the world building? Just let us know. And if you'd like to share your thoughts on this episode, the podcast, or give us some potential feedback, you can leave us a review on iTunes, on Google Play, or Stitcher. Alternatively, you can also send us a message directly through our website at www.getalifepodcast.com/contact, or you can come chill with us on our Discord server by checking out www.getalifepodcast.com/Discord. And with that being said, I think that's it for Overlord. Bish, do you mind telling them what we have in store for the next episode of Kunai?
It's been a long time coming, guys, and we I think even since Kunai started, we were always memeing about the show, and we always mentioned it a lot.
Bish knew, like, from the moment he created Kunai, this day would come.
This is the day of reckoning. The next episode will be it will be Oremo, so prepare for that. It's season 1.
I have no idea what I expect. Honestly, like...
It's a good show. I think season 2 is where it kind of drops off with the incest and whatnot.
Is the show famous or is it infamous? Like,
it's infamous.
I don't even know anymore, man.
It's infamous only because of the... It's infamous because of the incest. But other than that, you don't see it much in season 1. It appears more in season 2, but season 1 is very important. And I prefer season 1 over season 2. So we're finally going to watch it. It's going to be a ride. Might be a bumpy ride for Kevin, but it's going to be a ride. I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Can't wait to get all of the fucking shit for like choosing wrong best girl or whatever.
Oh, that's gonna...
I think I know who yours is. I think you told me.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. I
can't wait to find out.
It might change because I haven't seen Orimo in like what, 5 years, so my best girl might change in Orimo. But we'll see. That is going to be a waifu war and a half, and there will be shipping. The return of shipping will be in Orimo.
Shipping wars,
waifu wars. That's going to be insane. So,
all right. With that being said, guys, again, I can't say I use my Twitter that much anymore, but I will still check if you guys send me a message. My Twitter handle is @Tolvrae, @TOLVRAIE in Bish.
Mine is, as always, my Twitter and my Instagram as well, because we're posting on Instagram. It's @GetLifePodcast.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. See ya.
Stay sexy. Bye. I just have to include stay sexy.